You've got to shoot this bit, Margaret. You've got to shoot it.
We're going to start a summer podcast too. So, Rob, what do you think of that?
I absolutely love it. I mean, it really is great fun. The good, the rad, and the gnarly.
It's one of his favourite resorts, but just don't tell anyone else that.
Okay, I like that. Guess what?
Go on.
It's snowing.
And we bring you this fabulous free content out of the goodness of our heart, and all we ask for you is
Big sweaters, big hair, old school tricks.
to leave a nice little review for us on either Apple or Spotify or your chosen podcast platform.
I like that.
You're struggling to be a ski bum still.
Not really.
Oh, that's great stuff. So welcome to the 24th edition of the Whiteout podcast for this season. I'm Don Killinger, and officially this is our last of the winter season. But don't fear, because due to massive increased listener numbers and demand, we're going to start a summer podcast too. So Rob, what do you think of that?
Yeah, hi Dom. That sounds great actually, but hang on, you haven't introduced me.
Well, if people don't know you by now, Rob, then they're living in a different planet. I don't think you need an introduction anymore. Surely, come on, Rob. You don't need all that massaging.
No, right. I see. Yeah, well, they were always so nice. That's the thing. But fair enough. I suspect we have a number of new listeners this week because we always do, right? So I'll introduce myself then. Hi, everybody. My name is Rob Stewart, and I am the co-host of the Whiteout podcast.
I'm glad we got that out of the way, Rob. So, Rob, one thing we need to do before we get started, we're going to talk a little bit about this new airline that's launching this summer directly into the Italian Alps.
Yeah, Dom. I mean, this is the Italian boutique airline Sky Alps that has announced direct flights between London Gatwick and Bolzano throughout the spring and summer, and therefore continues to offer a shortcut to the Dolomites during the summertime. They started flying over this winter too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they were flying over the winter. Looks super cool as well.
It does.
I love the look of the planes. And they're starting their summer program. In fact, they started it on the 17th of April. So, it's going to be, I mean, the Dolomites, I'm a massive fan of the Dolomites anyway. So
me too.
Bringing that closer to the UK, it's just what we need.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Bolzano is so close to the Dolomites as well, and that's where the airline flies into. So you've got places such as Val Gardena, Alta Badia, the Stelvio National Park, loads of other places in the South Tyrol region. Yeah, I was there a couple of summers back, actually. I did an incredible e-mountain biking ride around the Sella Ronda. It was absolutely, honestly, one of the best days I've had on a bike. I've had a lot of days on a bike. Yeah.
It's so gorgeous. Even when you list out those places, Val Gardena, Alta Badia, I mean, they are absolutely gorgeous areas. I just love that whole area, summer and winter. And of course, this new route will operate twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays, and takes people straight to Bolzano from Gatwick. So super handy. Whereas I think the winter one was Stansted, wasn't it? I think the winter one was Stansted into Bolzano. So the summer one is Gatwick into Bolzano in a couple of hours. So it means passengers won't need to take lengthy transfers from major airports such as Milan, Venice, or Innsbruck anymore. It's a real benefit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because most of these resorts, right, these places we've mentioned, they're less than 90 minutes away from Bolzano. I mean, some of them easily done in an hour. The airport just has a couple of gates, so it's super fast to get in and out of. It's not like you're in and out really fast. It's one of those airports.
And the great thing is when you get there, there's so much to do, isn't there? I mean, the whole hiking, biking, I mean, day at the lakes, full on culture activity there as well. So you can get a real mix of that whole Alpine and Mediterranean cuisine, or maybe a chance to enjoy some local delicacies as well, like the aperitivo in the sun, as you would, Rob. I'm sure I've seen pictures of you with your aperitivo for sure.
They're everywhere.
And obviously, the local cities such as Bolzano and Murano, beautiful Italian towns full of character. It's just absolutely stunning, isn't it?
Yeah, that area is. Not to mention the local wines, of course, in that area, Dom. You've mentioned the food as well. I'll mention it again. The food, right? The food. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So good.
It's not all about the Via Ferrata and big hikes in the Dolomites, that's for sure. The wine is fantastic.
Yep.
So what's the schedule then, Rob? What do we know about the schedule?
Yeah, okay. So I have seen the schedule. Wednesdays and Saturdays right? Which is ideal for either, a whole week or a shorter break,
Yep.
right? So as you said, from London Gatwick to Bolzano on Wednesdays, that departs Gatwick at 3:35 in the afternoon,
Yep.
arrives in Bolzano at 6:55 local time. And then on Saturdays, the flight departs Gatwick at 4:40 in the afternoon and arrives at 8 p.m. local time. So coming back, also Wednesdays coming back, leaves Bolzano at 1:35 in the afternoon. And on Saturdays, it leaves at 2:40 in the afternoon. So, really civilized times, basically. None of this crazy early morning stuff.
Makes a big difference, doesn't it? And a bit more useful information for our listeners, Rob. The airline SkyApps was founded in 2021. Can you believe it? Now connects over 20 cities in Europe with direct flights. The whole fleet consists of these Dash 8 Q400 aircraft. They look super modern, turboprop powered machines. I mean, they look like a private jet, let's face it. They do look absolutely fantastic. And they're on that sort of medium haul flights with maximum capacity of about 76 people. And it saves up to 50% in emissions, apparently, compared to the other regional jets. So less noise during takeoff and landing. I mean, it does look like a private jet. Definitely something I'm going to be traveling on this summer. I'm definitely going to be jumping on there.
Yeah, it is fair to say, actually, that Sky Alps is definitely a premium service.
Yeah.
When you think of it, it's actually really good value. I'd honestly say that. I mean, see, the prices start around 180 euros each way.
Yep.
But, that's all in, and that includes food and wine, so it's kind of, it's like a business class seat, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But that's not a business class price, right? So it's generally.
And you're full on starting your Italian holiday from the minute you step on there, aren't you, with the food and the wine, I'm sure.
And I guess the convenience, it's the convenience about it on the other end as well. Much shorter transfer. So I guess you're also going to save some money on the other side, and you're going to save a lot of time. As well.
Absolutely. And that has to be taken into account for sure. So, So for further information, if you want to book, you can go to skyalps.com. You can book directly on the website. And there's also tons of information about the area and packages that include accommodation, transfers, and all that too. So, head over to skyalps.com.
I feel a return to the Dolomites coming on this summer, Dom. What do you think?
Oh, tell you what, I definitely don't need any convincing, Rob. It's without doubt, it's one of my favourite areas. There's no two ways about that. So, and we'll be covering some good summer mountain destinations on the Whiteout podcast too, as we have said. I'm sure the Dolomites will be featuring in that too, no doubt, as it's such a premium destination for us and one that we both love. So, Rob, what else have we got? Let's get stuck into this week's podcast.
What have we got lined up first, Dom?
So this week we are going to be taking a look back at the highs and lows of this winter season, the good, the rad, and the gnarly, Rob.
Oh, I like that. Actually, there was an old ski movie called that in 1987, right? Greg Stump, before the world famous Blizzard of Ours, and after the acclaimed Maltese Flamingo, right? It's the good, the rad, and the gnarly, packed full of like 90s craziness. I think it was 80s actually. Big sweaters, big hair, old school tricks.
Basically,
and
like
even yes. Well, apart from the fact that it had Scott Kennett in it as well, and his husky dog Zudnik. Happy days they were.
Oh, funny you say that, Rob, because right on my fingertips, I've got a catalogue of ski movie tracks. So maybe we'll have a little listen to the good, the rad, and the gnarly. Let's have a little listen to that.
Oh, that would be rad. Yeah, go on then.
Can we still say rad?
Not really.
Lying in my bed, staring at the sun, wishing that my life had just begun. I can't take it anymore, but the world must give. It's getting too hard to wake up and live. But it's never too late. It's never too
that's great stuff. 80s production quality, all that cheesy stuff going on. What an absolute classic.
Yeah, I agree. I love watching those old ski movies, and these guys, they were real ski bums that just happened to be great skiers at the same time and sort of proper characters.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And what a different world from the Warren Miller movies of the likes of today. I mean, those polished movies you get now.
Yeah, which are fantastic, actually. But I love the sort of freedom of these old films, the old Warren Miller ones as well. I mean, no agenda, just lots of skiing. And by the looks of some of those guys, lots of partying too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. A lot's changed in many ways, but I guess still people are still skiing and still having parties like they used to.
Yeah, I reckon. I mean, it's a bit different today, and I guess being a proper ski bum these days, a bit harder for various reasons like cost,
You're
accommodation.
You're struggling to be a ski bum still.
It's a lifelong ambition, Dom.
I think you're doing quite well.
Yes, I am actually. I'm quite proud of it. No, I see a lot of people having a lot of fun in the mountains still. Young people having fun in the mountains. It still happens.
Definitely. And long may that continue, which brings us to our season roundup, Rob. We're going to pick out a few highlights and favourite moments from this winter, which includes our favourite news stories, the best and worst bits of the season, the best bits of kit, and even our legend of the winter. Legend of the winter. That's got to be me, isn't it? Or you? It's got to be one of us.
Yes. Legend of the winter. No, not about us this time, Dom. Not about us. Not about me.
It's always about us.
Or you. I know, but not this time. Hopefully, this becomes a big deal for the Whiteout and its listeners. We might even one day produce a badge for the winner. What do you think about that?
Oh, I'd like to have a badge. Yeah, that'd be great. Get some feedback from listeners about our Legend of the Winter too. But for this year, Rob, it's down to you and me to choose. So I would nominate you.
Oh, thanks, Dom. I mean,
you're supposed to say, I would nominate you, Dom. Not thanks very much. Where's my badge?
It's not about us. Okay. It's not about me or you. I mean, I appreciate the nomination, Dom. And you know, if I was given a voting piece of paper with a number of crosses on it, you know, I tell you what, forget about Legend of the Winter. I think in the general election, Dom, I tell you what, I'll put the cross next to your name for running the country. How about that? Forget about Legend of the Winter for the Whiteout.
I think that's
I'll vote for you, Dom. I'll vote for you.
I think that's probably through lack of any other choice, though, Rob.
Well, yes, that is a good point. I would probably vote for my grandmother's dog, actually. But anyway, this is not a political podcast.
No.
So it's not easy because, you know, this season when it becomes to legends, and let's be clear, we are British. And although the legend doesn't need to be British, we definitely have a bit more of an interest in that. So there's been a few making that shortlist, Brits, I mean, this season.
Well, let's see who that is later on. But for now, we're going to start by looking back at the best news stories of the season, Rob. So what have we got? What about, I think, the Vail Resorts taking over Crans-Montana? What do you think? This is a big story over the winter and certainly stirred a few people up and still stirring them maybe. But let's have a listen to what was said at the time about that story. Vail buying Crans-Montana. I know we sort of hinted at this a little while ago. It's pretty big news. It looks like they are definitely buying Crans-Montana. It's the second ski resort that the company has bought in Europe, Andermatt being the first. They'll own and operate the lift system, plus a number of resorts, both on and off the mountain, and they've invested in a ski school too. We love this place. We know this place. Rob, you know this place exceptionally well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, firstly, full disclosure here, because I do actually work with the tourist office in Crans-Montana.
Yeah.
So I have a sort of interest there, and I just want to mention that. Yeah, it is really big news. And of course, it is in part controversial when a large corporation comes along and purchases a European ski area, which they have done before. But what I can say is that locally, it genuinely has been very well received.
Oh wow!
I think this is partly down to sort of bit of a no love lost from the previous owner, just saying.
Okay,
but also enthusiasm for the investment to come as well.
Yeah,
and there's definitely a certain section of people in North America, we know that aren't big fans of Vail Resorts for whatever reasons they've got.
Yeah,
but you know, Andermatt saw 10,000 American skier visits last winter.
Wow.
Not bad.
That's pretty spectacular. I wonder if we'll see prices go up, quality change. I wonder if any of that will change in a fabulous resort like Crans-Montana. What do you think?
I don't think quality will go down. I mean, absolutely the opposite. And in regards to the price, they need to remain competitive with a huge amount of other ski areas in the region. They will likely see an increase in US skiers as well.
Well, it's definitely been a controversial one, but let's see what it brings next season, shall we?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a whole podcast in discussing the corporate side of the ski industry and what's going on there for sure. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it's a funny thing. It's sort of already happening in Europe as well. Anyway, they're just much quieter about it than the Americans, I think.
Yeah. That's a news story. Yeah, but European resorts, they're still owned and run differently from the American ones generally, but it's a good subject. Let's for sure. Let's put it on the list. But what else have we got? What's the next story?
Oh, well, I think it's the Wham 40 years story, Dom.
Wow. Last Christmas.
40 years since that Last Christmas video.
Wow.
It's a really nice story. 40 years. Of course, George Michael and Andrew Ridgeley, they filmed the video to the song Last Christmas in the Swiss resort of Saas.
Wow. Fabulous.
Yeah. They apparently needed somewhere high that would get snow in the autumn, because they filmed it in the autumn. And wow, didn't they get snow?
It's fantastic. I love that. Brings up a full Christmassy feeling every time, doesn't it?
It's a classic, Dom, and I'm sure Saas were delighted when Wham turned up on their doorstep.
Can you imagine? There's got to be a podcast in bands that turned up in ski resorts for sure. You can probably list out dozens of them, I'm sure.
Oh, I don't know. Obertown and the Beatles, for example, but I'm not. Well, I'm sure there's lots of others. I'm not sure if I can think of too many off the top of my head. Don't think I could see Mick Jagger as a skier, though. Wouldn't get any satisfaction out of it.
Oh my God, Rob, this is so bad. Give me shelter, though. Maybe he was in a whiteout on that day.
Very, very, very good, Dom. Very good. Well, Mick, if you're listening, we'll give you some shelter in our whiteout. You'd be very welcome anytime. Yeah. Moving on. Right.
Moving on.
Here's a story to warm anyone up on a cold winter's day. Skiing in a Dirndl.
Oh, you're obsessed with this story, Rob. You keep on going about wanting to ski in a Dirndl.
Yes. It's not right.
It's getting a bit weird now.
Yeah, well, they say try anything once, and I'm pretty bought into that idea, but, well, maybe not everything. But skiing in a Dirndl, yeah, it's not going to happen.
Well,
yeah, the story ruffled some lederhosens, I would say. Although I'm not averse to a good Dirndl. I definitely like the chance to get the lederhosen on too. Maybe have a lederhosen ski day.
This is turning into a very different podcast, Rob. I definitely campaign for that one. Well, let's have a little listen to the original story on that, Rob. So not for us, but the Italian resort of Val Gardena is celebrating Women's Day on the 8th of March by hosting a women's-only race where participants have to wear a traditional South Tyrolean dirndl. All ages are welcome for 18 to 99. Imagine a 99-year-old skiing in a dirndl. She'd deserve a blooming medal, wouldn't she? Jeez.
Got to win that just by being out there in a dirndl.
Imagine. That would be so cool. So competitors meet at their Beta Salon, I think I've said that right, where they start off with an aperitif with DJ Simon.
Lucky them, or maybe Lucky Simon, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
At that point.
And then at the finishing line at the end of the race course, there'll be a dice game to play, and the event will conclude with a prize-giving ceremony at 2:30 p.m.
Gotta love a Dirndl.
Yeah, I bet you do. Right, well, let's get even sillier. What's up next, Rod? What is the daftest story of the season? What did we get? What were the silly ones?
Yes, I love some of those press releases we get where brands try and think of all sorts of things to get a new story. And I thought this one was one of the daftest of them all. A car park brand survey that looked apparently top winter destinations to get engaged in. Let's have a listen.
I remember that, yeah.
A press release arrived in my inbox from Skypark Secure, an airport parking website. And I mean, fair enough for thinking of a story to promote car parking, but it's still daft. But anyway, they looked at the winter destinations where people are most likely to get engaged, and Salzburg came out tops, which I thought is fair enough. I mean, Salzburg, it's a lovely city, I get it. But also in the top 10 was Vienna, Basel and Prague, all lovely places. Yep. And, you know, you could tie that into a ski trip because this did have a kind of ski winter angle to it. But there were a few anomalies as well.
Come on. Where was it?
I mean, I quite like Solihull, actually. Smart part of Birmingham. Definitely a place where you could hang out for an engagement plan. But I mean, I'm sure there's nothing against Gdansk. I mean, I've never been there, so fair enough. I mean, it could be really, I'm sure it's really nice if listeners have been there. Nuremberg and Cardiff. I mean, nothing against the places, but I'm sure they all, I mean, Cardiff has its nice spots as well. It's not far from me. I just think you might choose somewhere like Zermatt or Courchevel over those places. I'm just saying.
Well done, Skypark. You might have a daft press release, but at least they got some coverage for it.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, PR people, keep sending your daftest press releases to us. We love them, really.
Yeah.
And we do love a bit of kit in the ski industry as well. So we had to include our favourite for this season.
Yep, skiing wouldn't be skiing without all the gear that goes with it. Think of the history, the C&A ski suits, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, the luxury brands on the slopes. And then the other side of that, some people wouldn't be seen without an Arc'teryx jacket on. I know some of those people.
Yeah. It's what I love about our industry, Dom. So many facets and fashion, right, is a big part of it. So let's hear about some of our favourite bits of kit from this season. Although I will say it was a hard decision to make for me.
Yeah, me too. So much lovely kit. Let's have a little listen. I like the Sweet Protection Igniter. It's called the 2VI MIPS helmet that comes in at £219. It's a lightweight hard shell with the MIPS built in. It's great for free riders. I've just got hold of that helmet. And, it's just one of those things that just feels like solid quality. It's not the plushest helmet in the world. It's just got that real feeling of quality. So check that out at sweetprotection.com.
So is that Younes or Uns? Anyway, according to Younes' latest innovation, Naton 3.0 set up to revolutionize winter sports apparel for 10 national ski teams, including GB Snowsport. This is like high performance technical underwear developed by Yun, and it's specially designed for winter sports athletes. I haven't tried it yet. I haven't got hold of it yet. I've just been sent a press release, but it looks really interesting, and I thought I would mention it. Hopefully I'll get to test it this winter. They say Naton 3.0 showcases impressive improvements in thermoregulation, freedom of movement, and muscular support.
Easy for you to say.
It does go on.
Yeah, so my Sweet Protection helmet, Rob, and what did you have?
The Win base layer. Just kind of liked it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, nice. Always a bonus to test lots of kit. So don't forget to check out the In the Snow Mag YouTube channel for lots of gear reviews, including, of course, next season's new skis that are already up there.
Absolutely. Those videos are racing. I think one's hit 10,000 views already in the last couple of weeks that it's been out. So definitely worth checking out those fantastic ski test reviews that we had in La Clusaz earlier this year. So, Rob, we are coming to our next section, which is best introduction of the season. I mean, we did do some cool introductions, even though I do say it myself.
Yes, Dom. Your introductions to me sort of became more and more extravagant, a bit gushing and way too complimentary. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's nice to have that praise, but basically it's not accurate to start with, right? So I've picked out the one time that you were just, well, plain nasty, to be honest, but actually perhaps more accurate. So do we hear that one?
Let's have a listen. I haven't had my chance to introduce you like I normally do, Rob, but this time I'm going for my co-host, the scruffy, the disorganised, the idiotic, the frankly terrible skier. It's Rob Stewart.
Oh, thanks, Dom. Well, finally a bit of honesty from you, at least. I'm glad you cleared the air with that one.
Oh, that's a harsh one to pull out, Rob. You know I didn't mean any of that.
Yeah, I know. Well, listen, lots worse has been said about me before, so just tell it how it is. It's
usually once you walk out of the bar.
Yes.
Don't worry. What's next, Rob? What else have we got? Our favourite clip of the season?
Yes, our favourite clip of the season.
Right,
Dom.
of course. Rather than us telling you, the listener, what our favourite clip of the season was, we're asking you to tell us. You need to come to us, tell us what our favourite clip of the season was for this season.
That's right, Dom. So we're writing notes out for the best sections. And we were originally going to pick one out, but that sort of light bulb moment struck and we thought, nah, let's get the masses onto that one.
Yeah, so we are
much easier.
Do go back through our back catalogue. You can listen to all of our podcasts for this winter. Send us your favourite clip and message us either at rob@ski-press.com or dom@inthesnow.com. That's in the notes of the podcast as well. So do send us that because we'd love to know what your favourite clip of the season was. So, Rob, what's next?
Well, we've decided to come up with our own little dongs. Gongs, I should say. Gongs, not dongs.
I was starting to get slightly
I think-
worried then. I've got all my
think
clothes
dongs
on
is
still.
a sort of Chinese food type thing.
That-
Just shout outs really to people and places that we think are, breaking ground, doing great things in the winter sports industry and community.
Yep. So first up is Legend of the Winter, that person that has pulled out all the stops, gone beyond the highest peak, and reached the highest of the high roll. Excuse me, I'll just get ready to receive this.
Yes, Dom, it is a Legend of the Winter.
I'm so excited. I can't wait for everyone to find out. Anyway, I'll compose myself. I'm all ready, Rob. Come on, announce it.
Well, we've got a short list first.
Right, yeah.
And first up is Dave Riding.
Oh, yeah, of course it is.
We don't need to say too much about Dave, other than that he's a legend and still going strong. I'm not sure whether this is out there or not, or even if I'm allowed to say it, but I am going to say it anyway. I've heard from reliable sources that Dave will compete again next season. I think people know that, but he has to be the greatest British skier of all time now, I would say.
That's incredible. And I mean, he has had an incredible couple of seasons under his belt. I mean, the guy is remarkable and we all admire him greatly. And he's well worthy of being on our shortlist of Legend of the Winter against me and some others. So absolutely, we'll also be putting Jasmine Taylor forward too. Jasmine is arguably just as much a British skiing legend now as Dave, as we heard on last week's podcast. Number 1 in the world in telemark this season, World Cup winner. If telemark was an Olympic sport, then the narrative would be very different here for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would. And Jasmine has done some remarkable things, especially this season, and really should be really well known as a top sports person. But I get it. It's not a sport that millions of people follow. Telemark skiing, I'm saying specifically. But fantastic achievement from Jasmine. Yeah. Next up, though, is a shout out to a few of the younger British ski racers that are really starting to break through big time. I'm talking about the Carrick Smith boys, Freddie, Zach, and Luca, and also Molly Butler.
Yeah.
I've known their parents for years, and I always thought this is going to happen. But it's so great to see it coming together now. And I guess the highlight was this season, Zach's gold at the Youth Olympics in Gangwon, South Korea, the first ever Olympic gold by a British ski racer. Yeah. I think I could tell my grandkids that I skied with them when I could still just about keep up. Okay, they were 7 years old at the time. Actually, come to think of it, I don't think I could keep up. But anyway. Great achievements. Great achievements.
And that was a great episode of the podcast when we interviewed Zach. But I can imagine, 7 years old, they probably were better than you, Rob, certainly according to YouTube. Right, so last but certainly not least is the worldwide skiing phenomenon that is Michaela Schifrin. And I'm glad to say we've got her here today. We haven't got her here today, I've just heard. That is quite disappointing, Rob. But the American star that can do it all, win at every discipline, come back from serious injury and win, seems to always have a smile on her face, and, of course, got engaged to long-term boyfriend. That's really disappointing. Ski racer, who unfortunately suffered serious injuries himself this season, Alexander Amott-Kild. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Legends. Well, both of them are legends, really, aren't they? But Michaela is very special, and she had to be in our shortlist for Legend of the Winter, and especially coming back from injury this season and doing as well as she did. It's a remarkable achievement, and we hope one day will come onto our podcast. We are very much in touch with her and her team, and it would be great. Right. So they're our contenders for Legend of the Winter title. Do you want to tell everyone who the winner is, Dom?
Well, we chose our winner after a lot of deliberation, Rob. It had to be Dave Riding. It's a super tough choice because really there are some incredible people in that lineup there. But, it's his best ever season, and, you can't deny that. And some of those other younger skiers will have their chance to be the Legend of the Winter for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he just seems to be getting better and better, and no signs of slowing down. It's great to see. BBC take note. This guy he needs to be sports personality of the year. Right?
100%. 100%. Good call, Rob. Okay, well, we also want to mention a few people that might not be quite so well known, or in fact, top class ski racers.
Yeah, Dom, this is our unsung hero section, and we have a few people in the mix, but we'd like to say that in the future, if any of our listeners know anyone that might have, gone that extra mile, done something special, or has just been working behind the scenes to make lives better. I know that sounds a bit cheesy, but that's, there are people. Then we'd like you to tell us about them, because they're out there, but being the nature of unsung heroes, we don't always get to hear about them.
Yeah.
So who have we got on our list, Dom?
Well, first up, Elsa Dooley, but this is really a mention for all the young people out there striving to get to the top of their sport. We met Elsa, a ski racer trying to break through into the circuit, when she joined us for the ski test earlier this year at La Clusaz. It's great to see anyone working so hard to get further up the ladder in sport, and Elsa was an absolute inspiration when I sat down with her one evening and had a long chat with her. An absolutely incredible personality and somebody so tenacious. She certainly seems to be one of those unsung heroes for sure.
Yeah, there's so many driven young ski racers out there try to get to the top of their sport, and it's not easy, and it is inspirational to see that. Yeah, okay, something completely different here. It's a chap called, people may have heard this already in the news, but a chap called Edward Courage. I don't know if you remember the beer brand Courage, but he's part of that family. So he happened to be heli skiing this season in Switzerland on the Petit Combat when an avalanche hit the helicopter and things went wrong very, very quickly. Fast thinking Edward, 8 years of age, pushed 2 young members of his family out of the helicopter. Very risky.
Wow.
But they lived before he jumped out himself. And I mean, it's a sad story. Very, very tragically, 3 people did die in that accident.
Wow.
Including the guide, Adam George, which was just a dreadful situation. But Edward, he did save lives with his quick thinking. And so we thought, he was a worthy mention in this category this season. Someone to think so quickly.
Yes, a bittersweet story there, very sad and miserable on the one hand, but again, something very different, but arguably another person that has literally helped to save lives, and I'm sure he has in many ways, is Dan Keeley from charity Snow Camp. Dan is a well-known and well-loved member of the snow sports community in the UK and works for the charity set up by Dan Charlish. They can only employ people called Dan. That's why I never got a job there. And they are both total legends. But we know specifically the work that Dan Keeley puts in, and he rarely gets any accolades for it at all. And I know that he doesn't expect it either. But he passionately speaks out about his own challenges in life, and it helps to motivate others. He is a true unsung hero of our ski industry for sure. So Dan, if you're listening out there, both Dans, but Dan Keeley specifically, we are massive supporters of yours. Well done.
Quite right, Dom. Super nice guy as well. Right. Enough of people and on to the things that are really important in life. Ski resorts.
Yes, of course. Yeah. It's time for our ski resort of the season. Why don't you kick that off, Rob? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a few resorts this winter, Dom, and let's be honest, all ski resorts are great, right? I mean, they've got snow. Yeah. Actually, yes, they really do. They've got ski lifts, bars, hotels, people with little furry dogs in handbags. But this season, I went to somewhere that not only I've never been to before, but I hadn't even heard of. It's a tiny little village in the Austrian region of Carinthia called Healing. Shall we hear all about that? Let's
definitely hear. That was very interesting. Let's hear about that now.
Yeah, Heiligenblut or Heiligenblut. I think you pronounced it pretty spot on there.
Tell me what it was like then.
I first went to Inner Krems, which is basically a ski touring only destination. Then Bad Kleinkeikum, or BKK as we call it. It's easier. That's a larger ski resort with over 100 kilometers of piece, lots of hotels and infrastructure there. Yeah. But yeah, Heiligenblut, I must say, out of those 3, probably my favorite, although I did enjoy all 3 of them, but Heiligenblut is pretty special and unique.
So how do you get, let alone how you say it, but how do you get to Heiligenblut?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the easiest way is with a relatively new flight from London Stansted to Klagenfurt
Okay.
with Ryanair, small city in the southern part of Austria, Carinthia, very close to the border of Slovenia, small airport. We whiz through passport control and baggage in about 15 minutes flat.
Can imagine.
And I must say, it's a very, very scenic airport, a bit like Innsbruck in a way, but a wider valley. So sort of less intense than flying into Innsbruck and very, very pretty. Very, very nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then from there, how do you get up to Heiligenblut?
So vehicle transfer from there is the best option. Lovely scenery, really pretty. Up a long valley at the end where right at the end of that valley, you then get to Heiligenblut.
And so what is the actual town actually like then?
It's not big. I mean, it's really a village, so pretty quiet. If you want lots of shops and a big après scene, I would just say this place is not for you.
Okay.
Saying that, I found a great little bar called the Die Mühle, I think it was called, in the lower part of town, about 2 minutes from my hotel. It is a very small bar, but a great bar. Lots of fun. You need about 6 people to create an atmosphere in that place.
Of course.
Not a lot else around, but there's some lovely hotels there, including the 4-star Kartnerhof, which is where I stayed.
Nice.
Just that standard of hotel accommodation is really, really high. The food was excellent. It's very much sort of settle into the hotel territory and enjoy relaxing. It's not party central, that's for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
The ski lift is located close to the church, right in the center of town, and it's a 2-stage gondola that takes you right up into the mountain. The other thing is that the valley and the village has this sort of cinematic feel about it. That's what I loved about it. It's very atmospheric, sort of almost medieval.
What's the skiing like?
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting. It's definitely for the more adventurous skier, I would say, in general. That doesn't mean the terrain is super tough, though. Intermediates will find some really, really nice long red runs that aren't particularly challenging, just nice. It's not a huge resort in terms of mileage, about 50 kilometers of marked pistes. The longest run, though, is 10 kilometers. This is pretty long. What it does have is lots of free ride terrain all over the place. I mean, 6 different zones of free ride terrain, and lots of that can be found within the sort of lift accessed area as well.
Okay.
It's got a really good snow record, and the village is at 1,300 meters, which is pretty high for Austria. For me, it's the mix of really long runs and the off-piste terrain. That's the draw, plus the scenery and the fact that it's such a cool sort of mountain destination with really comfortable accommodation thrown in as well. Yeah, looking forward to going back there, Dom. I mean, I've got a few plans for next season, but what about you?
Yeah, well, for me, it was very different place. Probably for me, it would be Sun Peaks. Slightly lesser known, again, but it is a big British Columbia resort that a lot of people hadn't even heard of. And after visiting Sun Peaks, I went on to Revelstoke and I met a bunch of American guys who had never heard of Sun Peaks, still didn't know about it. It's quite a place. It's a big ski area, loads of bars and restaurants down a single strip resort style pedestrian road that you can ski straight through. You do feel tucked away. It's somewhere that you need to spend a few days before I don't think you sort of fully fall in love the first day. I think after a couple of days, you really do fall in love with this place. So let's have a listen to what I said about Sun Peaks at the time.
Sure. Bet you didn't see any dogs in handbags there.
British Columbia, at the end of the day, it's on everybody's bucket list, then, isn't it? And Sun Peaks is somewhere that actually quite a few people, I was surprised, hadn't even heard of it. It's a bit of a hidden gem and it's relatively easy to get to. You can fly straight into Vancouver, and it's about a 3.5-hour drive the other end to get there. In the main, it's a big cruisy area that you can just absolutely race around, lovely gladed runs, and it's completely ski in, ski out. You arrive and you feel like you've arrived somewhere that no one else knows about and you shouldn't tell anybody about it. It's the second largest ski area in Canada. We're talking nearly 4,300 acres of skiing, 139 trails. The great thing is 0 queues. Pound a day, snowed all night, snowed all day, snowed all night the next night. The next morning, Saturday, 0 queues. You are regularly skiing without seeing anybody. The whole ski resort is ski in, ski out. So you ski straight through the middle of the village. So in amongst people walking in and out of restaurants and shops, you're skiing straight through the middle of them. A little bit like your sort of Art 1950. And in fact, if I took photos and told you I was in Austria or France, you would absolutely believe me. It's all these lovely multicolored buildings and it's very village-like. It's got a very French-Austrian feel about it in terms of those type of buildings. Loads of drinking places. I mean, a disproportionate amount of places to eat and drink. compared to the size of it, which was fantastic because you really can find a bar or a food place for every single need. And I'm genuinely saying that. I mean, if you want sushi or steak or Italian or pizza, Japanese, they literally had everything. So yeah, a really good cultural mix there as well. There was a lot of New Zealanders, Australians, South Africans in abundance. Super nice. I don't think I've ever spent so much time on chairlifts talking to strangers. And it was really nice because they wanted to tell you about their local mountains from home. They wanted to hear about European resorts. There was a lot of questions about European resorts. So it's a very sort of personal, friendly, and a bit of a hidden gem.
Yeah, that sounds great, Tom. Yeah, sounds great. I mean, I haven't been to some peaks. It's definitely on my must-do destinations list that is ever growing. First world problems and all that. But, when you've been in the skiing industry for a while, you kind of need special places like this to aim to get to, I think.
Yeah. Something wrong with you, Rob, that you've not been out there.
I know.
You need to get over there and check it out because it's a great place. I think it's even our editor, Patrick Thorne. I think it's one of his favourite resorts, but just don't tell anyone else that.
Okay.
For goodness sake, don't tell anyone I told you.
I'll do my best. Right. That is the end of our last episode of the official winter calendar. But don't fret. There is more to come.
There is more to come, Rob, because this year we'll be continuing our podcast through the summer with bi-weekly episodes looking at all things summer mountain related, from camping, hiking, biking, trekking, and all those great things. Bit of climbing, paddleboarding, any of those other things you can do in these fabulous summer mountain resorts. Because to be fair, some of these resorts are better in the summer than they are in winter, dare I say.
Yeah, well, I agree. And over the past five years or so, I've been spending more and more time in the mountains during the summer, and I absolutely love it. I mean, it really is great fun, a very, very different experience, I'd say, to a skiing holiday. But yeah, I would say in a different way, it's easily as nice and as fun. Yeah,
absolutely. And you can check out lovethemountains.co.uk, our summer site where we cover all things biking, hiking, trekking, stand-up paddleboarding, climbing, and all those fabulous activities you can do in these resorts. And every other week, we'll be bringing our podcast in our usual fashion, Rob, but wearing summer gear. We'll be talking about warm things, although it's 6 degrees out that window at the moment. This is not the summer that I'm expecting. I know we're only in late April. Goodness. It's 6 degrees, It's no good.
So I was speaking to someone this morning. It's the 26th of April. Mm-hmm. I was speaking to someone in the French ski resort of Léger, and guess what?
Go on.
It's snowing. And it's snowing in town, and they had to clear their cars off snow today and yesterday. And yeah, it's crazy. It just doesn't stop snowing.
It's happening across a lot of resorts, and that brings us on to a whole new subject that we can cover another time, Rob, of whether the resort calendars need to slightly alter themselves to be slightly later in the season, because there are many, many resorts with fantastic snow conditions right now, and they're closing at a rapid rate of knots. So it's a shame to see that fabulous snow being untouched, and it'll be interesting to see how long that snow lasts. I know the temperatures will certainly be going up. But yeah, very interesting indeed.
It is interesting, and yes, you're right. There is probably a wider conversation to be had about all of that, and so we'll put that on the podcast to-do list, Dom.
On the podcast to-do list. So that is it for this week. All I would say, listener, is we bring you this fabulous free content out of the goodness of our heart, and all we ask for you is to leave a nice little review for us on either Apple or Spotify or your chosen podcast platform that you're listening on. Do leave a review. It helps other like-minded skiers and mountain travelers find the fabulous Rob and I talking. And Rob, until next time, to coin a phrase at the end of a TV, which TV show used this phrase? Don't have nightmares, do sleep well.
Don't have nightmares,
do sleep well. Yeah, don't have nightmares about the winter ending, just sleep
Emmerdale?
Well. No.
Don't have nightmares, sleep well.
It was Crime Watch.
Same sort of thing, isn't it?
Same sort of thing, Rob. So don't have nightmares about the fact that the winter is gone. Sleep well knowing that there's still snow on the mountains, the summer is coming, and the winter will come again.
I like that.
Good on you, Rob. Speak to you next time.
All right, thanks, Dom.
All the best.
Bye.
Adios.
Mais non, talkie-walkie.
Pretty sure it's called a walkie-talkie, mate.